Howdy. We are making fish fertilizer today. We're gonna wait just like 60 seconds. But yeah, maybe Kelsey can do a tour of my ingredients. I've got some tilapia fish. I've got brown sugar, some bowls and measuring things, and then this will be my end vessel. So that's that.
Should talk about where we got fish from last time.
Oh yes, so this will be like the second time I've made this. The first time I got fish from this awesome little bait well, not a bait shop, more like a fresh fish guy on the dock in California, Crescent City. And so he just gave me like a trash bag full of like ocean caught fish, and that was pretty cool. It was totally free and it was totally waste for him. I went fishing this week. We did not catch anything, so I bought store-bought fish today. Tilapia is a super like widely accessible fish. It's pretty heavily farmed across the world, so it's super accessible and it is relatively inexpensive. So for all three of these fish, there's another one hiding in this bowl. I paid $10. This is brown sugar. I buy the brown sugar in a 50-pound bag from a restaurant supply store. So if you're doing a lot of like making your own fertilizer, that's a great investment. It's like $30 for a 50-pound bag. And it's way less expensive than buying them in like the 2-pound bricks that you would for like holiday baking. I also buy the off-brand because it's sugar and it's cheap anyway. All right, well, I guess I'll just get into this. Kelsey will be looking for questions, and so I'll do some like on-air answering if anyone has any questions about the process that I'm doing. Just so people know, this is an animal. It's no longer living. I did not kill this animal. I purchased it from a food store. So just be aware that there is going to be some cutting, some tearing, maybe some gross noises. But yeah, here's your warning. I totally understand if you want to opt out of this one. But yeah, let's get started.
What's fish fertilizer good for? Why do you use it?
Fish fertilizer is great. A lot of different fish have, you can use it at different stages, but primarily it's good for like nitrogen. So it gives plants an awesome burst of energy and green leaves and root or shoot and tip growth. Different fish will have different nutrient makeups, so you can use them at different times. So if you get really into this, you would have like perhaps like salmon and local trout and a variety of different things that you could use throughout a growing season. Ideally, you are making this with locally caught fish, because those fish will have like natural like bacteria and microorganisms living on their skin that are relative to your area, so that's helpful to feeding the soil microbes and stuff like that.
Cool.
So the general recipe for this is that you would take 1 part fish to 1 part sugar, and you're just basically going to coat the fish thoroughly. This specific one that I'm making is called it's basically an adaptation of what's called fish amino acid. So there are other variations where you will add water, different bacteria, and those have different names. But yeah, so you just basically want to get this into smaller chunks, things that could be easily coated, and you're going to use, in this case, I'm going to use the skin, the bones, the flesh, and the meat. If you're a regular fish eater, you eat fish a lot, you don't need to use the meat. You can eat the meat, and then you can just use the scraps to make this fertilizer. So it's a great way to go about that. I know nothing about like cutting fish for eating, so this is going to be messy, and if you're a fisher person, you might be sad because we're just going to get into it. Tilapia have these really spiny things, so that'll be kind of challenging to get to, but that's all right. I have all of this sort of pre-weighed out, so I know what my ratios are, but like I've done with my other videos, I'll make sure that written directions are available as well. So when you make this is something that will set for about 6 months. By the time that the process is complete, it will be fully broken down, and you're not going to have any real remnants of the fish left. The last time I made this, I had really tough variety of different sea fish, which is generally like a lot tougher than like a trout or something that you might catch locally. And it was basically not detectable. Any bones that were left were soft and pliable and could easily be strained out, but for the most part they actually disintegrated. So left with a really rich fish extraction that you can use on your garden. Like I said, it's also really inexpensive compared to something that you might purchase at the store, and can generally be made from waste products, so I think it's pretty neat. These are awesome kitchen shears. They are really just cutting through this bone. There's some bone in the meat, so yeah, just chop it up, and then once you get a fair amount going in your bowl, we'll start to add some brown sugar. So you would just sprinkle it over it and coat it fully.
And why are you using brown sugar? What does that do?
So brown sugar, it acts as a preservative, but it also creates osmotic pressure, so it's pulling the water outside of the fish cells, and it's extracting the liquid and the nutrients that are within the fish, and it's helping to break it down. Sugar also feeds microorganisms and bacteria and things like that. Grumpy dog.
Playtime.
The sugar also helps to keep down smells and stuff like that. In a lot of fish fertilizer, you'll notice it will be like a combination of fish, molasses, and seaweed. And you could easily obtain all of that. In the state of Oregon, you can collect, in certain spots, definitely check regulations, but you can collect seaweed off of beaches up to like 3 gallons a year. So you could make a full, complete organic fertilizer for free, basically. So, again, we're just chopping this up into little pieces. I know it might seem boring for a live video, but I just want to show you all the full process. I won't process all of these fish. I'll just do enough for you all to understand the gist of it. But yeah, we'll get this going and we'll set it up. Again, it takes about 6 months to fully break down. And so right now is a great time to start making it. That will give you time to let it break down over winter. When you do things like this over the fall and the winter, sometimes it can take a little bit longer, just due to like cold weather. Microbes are a little bit slower and a little bit less active during that time of the year. I also want to point to, like, this is not an original idea of mine. This is directly learned from a farming process called Korean natural farming, which is popular in certain areas of Asia, including Korea. But has been popularized in the US over the last, probably, I don't know, it's been very apparent in my world over the last like 6 years or so. But yeah, there's lots you can research about it, and there are real awesome like variations on making fish fertilizer. Some people will do like blended, where they'll actually, you know, dedicate a blender to making a fish slurry.
Emulsified.
Yeah. And so you can get really creative. Definitely research it if you're interested in learning about the differences and things like that. This is just one that I'm familiar with and is pretty friendly. We're almost done with this first fish, and then I'll talk a little bit more about storage and usage.
You were warned.
Yeah, it's not pretty. There are also ways to make like different fertilizers from other things. You can make fertilizers from things like eggshells. You can make them from bones of animals that you're already eating, especially if you're getting like any local beef or pork. All of the bones that you use for cooking can be turned into different fertilizers.
Would you use brown sugar for those?
No, those are entirely different processes. A lot of them involve vinegar, and they also involve charring the material. If you're making this, I also strongly do recommend the gloves. Fish can just be, super potent. And for some reason, it really, really sticks to my hands. So, I'll see if you want to zoom in on this a little bit. You can see that it gets pretty soupy from the liquid. And this, what will happen is the brown sugar will extract more and more moisture, and then the microbes that are present in the air and on the fish and on the sugar will start to break this down immediately. So, nice and goopy. This is about the ratio that you want, and then you can load it into your vessel. So I'm going to use a mason jar, and you can do this a variety of ways. You can load it straight in, you can create a little bit of like a sugar pack on the bottom just to give it some more absorbing potential. Just do a light pack there, and then start loading your fish in. Okay, so once you get it in there, I will, like I said, I'm going to continue to process the rest of the fish after we close this down, but you guys don't have to sit here and do the whole thing with me. But what's going to happen is I'm going to do another sugar pack once I get all the way up here. I'll just sprinkle this on until it's about, an inch or so covering it, and that just can help with like smell and things like that. Then I'm going to take a paper towel, which I have right here. I'm going to make sure that there's no goop on the outside of my jar, my vessel, and then I'm going to put this paper towel on it, and I have just a mason jar lid without this is the ring without the metal lid. And you can just screw that on so that the paper is preventing any macroorganisms. So you don't want any flies in there, you don't want any other critters. And then you're gonna store this again for about 6 months. It could definitely go longer. There's no harm in letting it sit until you're absolutely ready. So I would say 6 to 8 to 10 months until you're done using it. And then keep that in like a moderately temperatured area where you're not gonna mind this being. In my experience, it's relatively smell free, but I wouldn't put it in a space where you're trying to cultivate nice aromatherapies. A garage is great. If you have a cool shed or something like that, if you have a root cellar by chance, that's awesome. I would say that you probably don't want it in the refrigerator. That might slow activity too much. But yeah, just check on it every couple of weeks, couple of months. Once you get into it, make sure that it does not smell putrid. It should just smell sweet and slightly fishy. shouldn't smell too gross. And then once you're ready to use it, what I would do is I would get another vessel comparable to the one that you used to store it in, and then I would just filter out any of the potential solids. Any solids can go into a compost. You could feed them to chickens. You could bury them in your garden. You could toss them into a bokashi composting system, that kind of thing. But again, you really shouldn't be left with too many, and whatever is left will be really pliable, super soft. And then you'll use this at a 1 to 1,000 ratio. So I'm going to I'll fill this whole thing up. And this is a 1/2 gallon mason jar. So that will create about over 1,500 milliliters. So the potential to expand that outwards is pretty significant. Even with the large gardens that Kelsey and I cultivate, this would be more than enough for the next year plus. So yeah, that is my fish fertilizer tutorial. We'll give everybody a couple of minutes to filter in any last questions. I'm going to finish processing these, and then Kelsey will wrap up the video. Let us know if you have any last questions or comments, and we'll get them answered. We are attracting flies and yellow jackets.
Ooh. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap it up.
Okay, we'll see you all next time.